No. Hello, I'm Geraldine Smith Crivello, Chair, and I'm calling the meeting to order. Please do the roll call.
Sure. Chair Smith Crivello,
Present.
Vice Chair Collum,
Here.
Commissioner Dawson,
Present.
Commissioner Humbero,
I see her.
Commissioner Humbero,
Oh, she is on the phone. You're right.
I can go back to her.
Oh, there she is.
Lori, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Bye.
Commissioner O'Neill
Here.
and Commissioner Rath.
Here.
Uh,
Okay.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Lori is here.
Commissioner Rodriguez has let us know he will be absent, and staff members present are Senior Associate Planner Schmidt, Associate Planner Buggert, and myself, Recording Secretary Barrera.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open the consent items. We might say a little bit about Zoom also.
Sure. Members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. This meeting is also streamed live on youtube.com/City of Monterey. It's also streamed on Comcast Channel 25. If you would like to provide public comment, please join the meeting using Zoom or by telephone, making sure to join in time to accommodate delays. To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-739-7120. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. Please turn off TV or computer speakers or go to another room while connected, as background noise interferes with the broadcast. Public speakers will be called upon in order of hands raised. There is a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. Please stay within that limit.
Thank you. So we will move to the consent items, and one of those items is approval of the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Any motion or
I had no changes.
I didn't either.
so
I'll move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor?
We need to do.
You do individual.
Chair Smith Crivello,
Aye.
Vice Chair Collum,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Humbero,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Aye.
and Commissioner Rath.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved with a vote of 6.
Great, thank you. Is there anything else for consent item? That's the end of consent. Then we'll move to public comments. Here in the city council chambers, I don't see any members of the public, but there might be somebody online.
There's one attendee and it looks like it's the applicant and their hand is not raised.
Okay. So hearing no public comments, we'll move to the public hearing, and we do have an item. Consider 828 Pacific Street application for Mills Act contract MA 220176 and H2 historic zoning. The applicant is owner Ben Michael Beasley and Shannon Highfield. R16 zoning district, low density residential, general plan, land use designation exempt from SEGWA per Article 19, Section 15305, Class 5. So would you like to tell us a little bit about that property?
Sure, there's a staff presentation. I'll pull that up now.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Matthew Buggart, and I'm an associate planner with the City of Monterey's Planning Division. Today before you today is 828 Pacific Street for a proposed Mills Act property and an update in its zoning to H2 at today's Historic Preservation Commission meeting on October 13th, 2022. The recommendation from staff is that the HPC adopts two resolutions. The first one recommending that the Planning Commission recommend to City Council that they adopt an ordinance to rezone the property as a city historic resource from R16 to R16H2. The second resolution is to recommend that City Council directly approve a Mills Act contract in which the property tax savings program for historic resources would take effect for the property. The subject property is at 828 Pacific Street. It's about 5 minutes walk from here. It stretches between Pacific Street to Lomita Street, a triangle section of land, in between a few other cottage type residences. Some background on the property. There was an intensive survey prepared by architectural historian Margaret E. Clovis. The intensive survey identified the site as qualifying as a local historic resource based on California Register Criteria 2 and 3. Criteria 2 is that of persons, the resources associated with the lives of persons important to local, California, or national history. Criterion 3 is about design, that the resource embodies the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, region, or method of construction. In order to be eligible, it needs to satisfy at least one of these, and for the case of this property, by the intensive survey, it was identified to fall under two different criterion. The first one is Criterion 2, persons. The residence is the family home of John and Agatha Giamona, who lived at the property for over 60 years, and in particular were one of Monterey's first and pioneering Sicilian fishing families. They were one of the first fishing families that moved to Monterey, and it is the only remaining house related to the Giamona family in Monterey. Their fishing that they conducted here, the family first purchased a fishing vessel that was built by the Monterey Boat Works in 1925. It's called the St. George, a second generation Lampara boat. After gaining some success, a larger vessel, St. Christopher, was purchased and would be sailed to Alaska for the salmon season. Eventually, over time, it sank offshore, but the family remained involved in the fishing industry here in Monterey into the future. For Criterion 3 regarding design, the Giamona's Spanish Revival cottage is eligible under the design criterion because it embodies the distinctive characteristics of that Spanish Revival style adapted to a working class residence. The property retains 6 aspects of integrity, including location, design, setting, materials, feeling, and association, each of which are detailed in the intensive survey. And one of the integrity aspects, workmanship, was not found to be applicable to the site. Some of the character defining features of that Criterion 3 is first, the stucco exterior and tile roof, exemplifying the Spanish Revival style. All of the original window and door openings are retained at the structure. It has a stucco chimney, the tile vents in the gable. There's an arched picture window and porch entrance, which is distinctive of both that style and somewhat unique to this residence, and a bay window with a conical roof. And the fact that all of these items are located on a somewhat smaller cottage style building was found to be particularly distinctive for that Criterion 3. Staff's analysis is that the property meets the eligibility requirements for H2 overlay zoning in that the property has been identified by a qualified architectural historian to be a significant local historic resource, and that granting the contract would serve to offset the cost of maintaining this resource. The maintenance schedule is also included in these staff report materials. And concluding with staff's recommendation that HPC adopt 2 resolutions. 1, recommending that the Planning Commission recommend to City Council to adopt the ordinance to rezone the property to H2. And secondly, recommending that City Council approve the Mills Act contract for the property. With that, that concludes staff's presentation for this property. We should also have the applicant on the line for when questions are available to them as well. Thank you for your time.
Okay, do any of the commissioners have questions for Matthew Bugart, who presented the information about our subject property?
I have just a clarification. Is this property kind of across from El Dorado? Where that
Yeah,
comes
It's
up
kitty
by the,
corner.
right, okay. Thank you. Didn't have a chance to go by and it's like, I know this property.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank
near,
you.
near Martin.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
nestled in with some
Yeah.
other houses. Are there any other questions or clarifications from staff? I mean, from our staff member who's here? I don't see anyone on Zoom raising a hand. And so I think, thank you for a very clear presentation. Looks like there aren't any questions. We would very much like to hear from the applicant, and
The-
that's next.
The applicant has their hand raised. I'll go ahead and allow them to talk.
Hi there, Commissioners. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
My name is Ben Beasley, and I appreciate the consideration. Things that were not mentioned is we just purchased this in May. We're the 3rd owner. The Giamonas were the first. They built the house in 1939. She passed away, I believe, in 2000. Subsequent owner, and then we just purchased it. What I loved about not only that story, their original, they emigrated to Martinez, and they were one of the first families to come from Martinez down to Monterey, and their first house was on the lot right across from the first theater up from the wharf. So that was the main house. Their kids in 1938, they got married and had this house built. What's cool about that story is there was another gentleman in Benicia Martinez who was Italian, who was an Italian fisherman family, and he did not want to go into that business. His name was Albert Sino, and he wanted to build houses. So he came down to Monterey. This was one of the very first houses he ever built. He wanted to build affordable housing for fishermen. He ended up building 36,000 homes, over 30,000 homes in the state of California. And this was one of the very first ones he ever built. We absolutely love the house. We love the style. We don't want to change a thing. We've already done the floors. We've done a little bit of updating, but we just absolutely love this whole little part of Monterey. And when we talked with the historian, she thought for sure we were in the historical district, but the historical district, I think, starts right on the other side of the street or somewhere real close. I would have been there in person. I didn't know. I'm only 3 minutes away, or 5 minutes as we were told. I didn't know I could be there in person, so I could still walk down there if you'd like to see me.
Sure, come on down.
And I'm a family. I was born in Monterey in 1962. My family's been here all our lives, and so we're not Italian, but we are deeply rooted in the city of Monterey.
So we can talk a little bit about the property and give you 3 or 4 minutes to walk down here, just so that you feel like you've checked that box and you've come into the city council room. So we can easily do that. Go ahead, come on down. So
I can do that if sure. I'll be down. So you're in the council chambers.
right,
Mhm.
we're in
Okay.
chamber.
I'll be down in 3 to 4 minutes, as long as it takes me to put my shoes on and walk down.
Okay, very good.
All right. See you.
So we can give him a minute, and if we have any questions for him, we can ask it at that time. Are there any other public comments about this property? doesn't look like there's a lot of conflict about it. We don't even see anybody else online. Is that right?
Correct. There are no attendees online.
No attendees online and no one in the audience.
I'll ask one
Well,
question.
commissioners will come on next.
Yeah.
actually. Good.
Okay, I was just going to ask, where did he say 150 Pacific was? Across from the theater, like where that parking garage is now? Is that? I was kind of wondering where 150 was, his the original couple that came from Martinez.
There was a theater down where they
really?
built the big hotel. If you follow Alvarado all the way down. Did he say on?
He said it's on
Pacific?
Pacific, 150 Pacific, and I was trying
Well,
to
that could be
place
by the
that.
first theater.
Yeah, they meant, that's what I was thinking. It might be where that garage is. I don't know. I'm just curious.
Looking it up on Google Maps, it's not super clear whether it's the garage side or the Heritage Harbor side.
That's what,
But
yeah,
I
I
think
was
it's
wondering.
that side of
Right.
Scott Street.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I was trying to find where was this house.
And
It
there's a
seems-
Sino Street just up the hill
Right.
Yes.
from there.
Well, he was a big builder in Contra Costa County from where I came when I came here, Sino. And of course, I know about Pittsburgh and Martinez with all the fishing, well, the families, the Italian Sicilian families.
I was gonna bring up the fact that in terms of the builder, I think it is significant that we have an early representation from such a prominent builder and a builder from the Sicilian Italian community who expressed an interest in building for fishermen, regular people.
Mhm,
And
yeah,
so I think that's great that we'll have an example of that builder, and that it adds to the history of our Sicilian heritage here in Monterey to have both the builder and the early fishing family associated with the house.
yeah. Somewhere in here, it mentions Sino wanted to build for the working class,
Mhm.
and he did up in Contra Costa County too.
Do we know where the information about Sino came from that he wanted to build for?
Well, I just know his roots are up there. That's
Oh, who wrote up the report that stated that?
Meg
I
Clovis did.
highlighted it
Yeah.
somewhere in here, his name.
Well, I saw it in here. I was just wondering where
Right.
the app, where the historian found that information.
Carol Dawson has her hand raised.
Oh,
On the
Yeah,
phone.
hi. My question is, it was mentioned in the staff report that the criterion on workmanship did not apply,
Oh,
but
here.
since it was built by a local builder, I'm wondering why that particular criterion does not apply.
It's a good question.
Mhm.
From the report itself, verbatim, the workmanship integrity item is the physical evidence of the crafts of a particular culture or people during any given period in history or prehistory. And it just states that this aspect of integrity is not applicable to the Giamona house. There's no additional discussion from the intensive survey about that item.
Yeah, well, I was curious why it isn't, because I would think that would apply in this particular case, but not that it's a big deal. I just would want more of an explanation than that.
Understood.
So what does that mean when you say it doesn't apply? Does that mean that you're choosing not to use that criteria, Matthew, or?
that was what the historian,
Yeah, from the historian themselves, they did not find that particular piece of integrity to be applicable to the property. It mentions, I'm checking some of the other items to see if it mentions the Sino development. It is discussed in the intensive survey that it was built by Sino, and but I'm not sure why it's not. Yeah,
It
Other-
seems, and I'm not reading it, I don't have it in front of me,
Yeah.
that it kind of either it's fine craftsmanship or typical craftsmanship, which may or may not be fine. It's kind of a squishy
Here-
definition, actually.
On
Yeah,
page
it's funny.
26, it does say under workmanship. It says, is the physical evidence of the crafts of a particular culture or people during any given period in history or prehistory. And it says this aspect of integrity is not applicable to the Chimona house. So I don't know. I guess that's something we could learn more about.
It makes no difference probably today, but it seems like it's probably typical craftsmanship of the period for that kind of house.
I like the idea that this was an earlier house that Sino built, and he seemed to incorporate some features that are often found in larger homes in this small house, which I think he was applying some artistry to his craft to include those features. And that we might want to mention that, I think that the house has, even visually as you drive by, has several, it's not just a plain straight wall. It has a little top to looks like it could be a dining area or something, and the window features elevated, I think, and it really has an attractiveness in terms of some distinctive qualities in its building that you don't find in every house of this time.
one
So,
thing.
and we want to recognize that Ben Beasley has arrived all the way from the house, I guess, and would like to give you, you've caught your breath and you might want to say a little more or answer any questions that we have.
Thank you. I have nothing else to add at this time. If there's other questions that I might be able to. I have nothing else to add at this time. I don't know if there's any other questions. I know you were talking about Albert Sino and his legacy. I just know that it was from the paragraph and what the historian told me verbally, which you could probably expound on at some point. I also know that Jack Rousseau worked for Albert Sino, so he's no longer with us, but he's very much prominent Monterey laborer, and his wife and his family. So that's a cool side story. It wasn't part of the whole, I think it's just part of the whole dialogue, I think.
And one thing that we can do on that item, if this does get decided to move forward, is we can reach out to Margaret and see if she had anything to add on that item or any details that we might be able to present at either planning commission or city council, depending on where the discussion goes.
Great. Yeah, we want to give it all of its merits on the write-up when we do it. If we missed anything, it'd be nice to include it. Okay.
Okay, I have a question. It's not really a question, but on your maintenance plan, where are you finding a water heater that only needs to be replaced every 20 years?
We
Well,
want to know.
This was just replaced. It was brand spanking new.
Okay,
And so there's only two of us in the house, so we won't be using it a lot. But maybe we could make that a little more aggressive.
it was just a comment.
Okay.
No need to change this.
I also, considering how busy Pacific Street is, it's nice that the garage is off to the side, so you're not backing. into
It's such a gift. I mean, at Monterey High, getting out in the morning does make it a little difficult. That little back part on Lameda
No meeting.
is a popular place for people to park, waiting for their kids to come in. And what's interesting, and I don't want to raise red flags, but the rest of the properties on Lameda and Pacific have kind of encroached on that area, made really nice little exterior parking areas with DG and things. We'd love to do that someday, but it's right now we've been told, according to the city and Google Maps, they didn't survey. They said, according to Google Maps, that's not our property. And so right now there's a red truck parked out there for 2 weeks. And I called, so they said, you could have it towed. I don't think it's my property. So the police officer had to go do his due diligence, and it's just an interesting little part. But I love that area because you got parking there, you got parking on the front, you got parking on the side, you got parking in our driveway, you got parking in the garage. We only have 2 cars, but there's lots of parking.
Yeah, I think that's a real gift because a lot of the houses built during the early years, a lot of them didn't even have driveways or garages because they they didn't need to park, so. And-
It's such a fun house. He did a great job. I wish I could go talk to the man.
Oh, I think it's great. There were some Gimonas still in town when I first came here.
I think they're up on Via Paraiso. There's a Giamona. We need to somehow I want to get them. We actually, I don't know if you noticed that, but we actually have the original plans that are now framed in our living room
Oh, great.
yeah.
and with Giamona, and they actually, where the archway and the window is now kind
Yeah.
of soft. It was going to be a tapestry, very like a cathedral. And you could see where they penciled over that and wanted to make it more of a rounded archway, which is, it's just nice having that history.
Yeah.
I think a lot can be done with it. And even as you drive by, as you kind of trim some bushes, we can see a little more house.
My hope is, and obviously we'll get permission. I want to put a white stucco wall out front, to
Oh.
kind of really set
Cool.
the house apart, because it's hidden behind those bushes right
It's
now.
hidden a little bit. Yeah. I think it's a darling house, and
Mhm.
and we've had several of our commissioners say in the last few months that, we're always looking for grander, more, I don't know, impressive properties, and we were looking. I think they were looking for something that was designed for regular use by regular people.
We had to get together a couple weeks ago. We had 40 people over, and they couldn't get enough out of it. They just loved the character and the feel and the whatever they created that we get to maintain. It's really, really fun.
And apparently they had parking.
And there's plenty of parking.
Yeah, I think that's a real
Yeah.
I
asset.
do have a question looking, and when I looked at the, I'll say plot map from overhead, so your property doesn't go to Lomita Street.
Well, when I talked to the city, they said, according to Google Maps, it does not.
Okay,
And so we have not had it surveyed. At some point we will. If we're able to do something with that, even better.
the county has a map that has your property lines. on it.
Okay, good.
It's hard to find on their website, but it does have
I'll look for it.
like it, and it overlays on
Aerial.
an aerial photo.
Okay,
We can provide that.
that'd be wonderful. Okay.
So we've enjoyed talking about this property. It's been a pleasure.
I know you do field trips. If you wanted to come over, we'd be happy to have.
We might do that.
Yes.
Especially
can-
their chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I think it's been just a lot of fun to think about it, and we're glad to know that you're there in the property, and it's something that we're happy to work on. So I guess we need to hear a motion.
Can
And
we
as
close his comments?
we can, we've had public comments, and we went back to applicants' presentation. And so we've been kind of in the commissioner committee comments, and so I think we're ready to call for a motion.
I'll move that we accept staff's recommendation to make, what's the address here?
Yeah, I know.
Um,
I heard it.
828 Pacific Street,
Oh, yeah, we-
to give it H2 historic zoning and approve a Mills Act contract.
Second,
I'll second.
okay, Kathy Collins seconded. And we're going to request.
Carol Dawson.
Oh, to Carol.
Oh, Carol, a discussion and questions? Carol?
Yeah, hi. I'd like to ask if you would consider adding to your motion some mention of the fact that it was built by Sino.
Why?
How would we?
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that.
I wonder if in. Too bad the house doesn't have a name. The, the,
It was referred
Giamona
to-
House.
we could call it the Sino Giamona House or something. Does anyone have a?
Yeah,
what
it was
do you-
referred to as the Giamona House in the intensive survey, but if trying to include Sino and then.
We could do Giamona/Sino.
So what I'll
that's-
also mention is when the applicant, all of our Mills Act houses have to put up a plaque, and it's typical that they say who lived there and who built the home. So
Okay.
at that point, it would be recognized on that plaque that's available for public view.
Okay,
Oh, that's good.
and, okay,
Right.
sounds good.
Mhm.
Thanks, Carol.
Is that a comfortable thing for everybody, including the applicant? Yep. Okay, it looks like that's a go, Carol. Thanks for the contribution. And then we'll move ahead with a roll call vote.
Sure. Chair Smith Carvello,
Aye.
Vice Chair Column,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
An enthusiastic eye, because when I drove by the house, I mean, it looks like it's in wonderful maintenance condition.
Mhm.
Commissioner Humbero,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Aye.
Commissioner Rath.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries with a vote of 6.
Okay, motion was approved. And then we always like to state that a resolution may be appealed within 10 days or 2 days for wireless applications. I doubt if there's any problem with this one.
I will mention that recommendations are not appealable. So any protest, they can
Oh,
go.
just the negative one.
Correct. Yeah. So any protest, they can bring them to the planning commission and city council hearings that will come up in the next,
It did
2
seem a
months.
little silly to say that, but I'm reading the
It's
script
okay.
here. So thank you, everybody, for the public participation. Thanks for coming down and being there, and congratulations. We're happy to have a new Mills Act house. And so now we're up to commission or committee comments or anything that you have. I'll start out by saying Saturday, there's a nice event at the conference center. We're always glad to hear that there's something coming to the conference center now after having 2 years of not as many activities there. And this is to open Jeffers Plaza. And they've worked closely with the Jeffers, Robinson Jeffers Foundation, and that refers to the Tor House in Carmel. Robinson Jeffers was also active as a literary figure on the cover of Time magazine in the 30s and 40s, and spoke out in favor of restoring Japanese property rights to Japanese citizens, to Japanese members that had been relocated during World War II. So it's nice to recognize him as a poet and as a public figure that was a little ahead of his time. And so they're opening it up and having a nice dinner celebrating Jeffers Plaza this weekend.
Do you know what time that is on Saturday?
I know that, I think the gathering's at 5 and the dinner's at 6.
And do you have to get tickets before then?
Yeah.
You through Tor House, you could call
Okay,
Tor
thank you.
House. And I could even put in a word for you.
Great.
There's
Thank
an
you.
extra ticket because I think it would be a nice thing if you could come. It hasn't been widely publicized, mostly just went out to people that are going to the Tor House.
Yeah, in the Pine Cone had a good list of all the events, Friday night, all day Saturday talks, and this dinner. And the dinner's only 35, Chris.
Okay.
And then Sunday, the poetry walk and so forth. Yeah, so they have
Most
it.
of it's Carmel, but we have a special little niche here because newcomers to Monterey or people staying at the, around the conference center downtown
Right.
area will be introduced to Robinson Jefferson. And that's a nice
Mhm.
addition. Anybody else with an event or?
Well, speaking of Carmel,
Mhm.
Christy Sobdo came to the big house tour September 24th with her daughter and really loved it from what she said. And Geraldine was a docent. Thank you. We sold almost 800 tickets, so it was quite successful, but tiring.
Me,
Commissioner
Don't be-
Humbero has her hand raised.
we have
Bear-
something at
Yeah,
the,
Lori has her hand up.
I'm just wondering when houses get the Mills Act or when they're, made H2, where are these reports located for public viewing?
So our agenda reports, such as this one, is saved on the city's agenda website online forever. And so it's available there. We can certainly provide it by request. A lot of folks have trouble using that webpage, but we can help navigate it. We also have them in the planning office. If you'd like to come in and view them there. I think that we do have an option to put them on our GIS page, and I can see if we're updating those regularly as well.
Because I think that the reports contain significant historic information. And I would definitely like to see them accessible more to the public so that the public knows that they exist. I know that in the library, California History Room, I have found a couple of them, but that was before we did things online. So I'm just hoping that there's going to be some sort of special link or place for all these historic approvals, because otherwise all that information really is not accessible to people. And I think it would be important to have it.
It is important.
It's just the same thing as the one that we didn't, the one that we approved to be removed from the historic context. I also think that information is very valuable and could be located in an accessible way. I had suggested a binder, but I've kind of rethought that maybe just putting it in a special place online so it's accessible. And then people get more of an understanding of what's historic, what's not historic, why is something historic, why is something not historic.
I think we invite them to find out about those things, and it is online, but if they have any problems with it, the staff said that they help them access it. So through staff and online, it's currently accessible. So looks like
Right, but I'd like to see it more of in a special place. Like, you just wanted to find out what's historic, what was approved, and not just like, just seems to me that if you have to ask staff to help you, then it's not really that accessible. And if we put it all together, and then someone could say, oh, I wonder what's historic in Monterey, or how did this get historic, or how did this get torn down? Oh, because it was really old. And then they can look and see how it got torn down and why. And so anyway, it's just something that I've always been curious about, because I do own a historic home that was made historic back in the 1990s. And the only information that I've ever found is this binder in the library and what I personally have.
Good.
So I just think we could do better of informing people of, these issues. Because when you look at the historic reconnaissance survey and something's taken off the historic reconnaissance survey, it seems to me that there's just a line that goes through it. No explanation of why this one was not historic as opposed to that one. And I just found that to be lacking.
Well, I do know that anytime something is deemed historic or, the opposite, taken off the historic, there has to be a criteria mentioned and a description of why. It's on every document I've seen that, and it's gone through both the commission, planning, and then city council. So it's in at least 3 public records. And sometimes there are also people that contest decisions, and so that adds another public record or 2. So having it be on the public record 3 to 5 times and accessible online is usually a pretty high criteria. And when if there's a place that you think it should be, I noticed you didn't say a particular place, but you said you found information in the library, which is great, and it's online, and the city staff said they'll help you. And then some people, of course, actually do a lot of research on their own, going through documents, and just like they do for ancestor searches because they find it interesting. So it can go a long ways. I think we're doing pretty well trying to provide. And here we're sitting in a room and not a single person's here, Lori. online or in the room. But when they are interested, we'd love to help them out. And
If I can just add a little bit, I've done searches. There's a lot that the city has on it, but their search engines are not particularly friendly.
True.
So maybe a suggestion when you redo everything, though your smart parking is just wonderful, is to have something maybe historic, where you have, I'm thinking of the historic houses, or just a tab that has history related or historic things. So a tab with those particular things might be something.
I would like that. Once I tried to find out information about all the Millsacks houses, and even that was cumbersome and difficult.
It's not user
Going to-
friendly.
So something that's a tab, maybe we can make some progress there, Lori, make it a little more
Yeah.
user friendly.
I think it would be great. Now, my house is before computer online anything. And that's why I said it's only in a binder in the library. There was something that happened, and believe me, the city wasn't even aware that it was a historic house. They were doing some sort of neighborhood improvement project, or, oh no, it was the Cal-Am water, recycle water that goes over to Pacific Grove, and they put some big ugly thing right on the side of the house. It was very disappointing to me. So I just want to have it, in general, that people can know more. And in the historic reconnaissance survey, I would hope that something could be added to that when something is taken off that list. Just, because I haven't found that. All I find is a slash, and I don't know why. But anyway.
Thinking, if there's an opportunity as everything balances out after the, difficulty of getting through COVID and shutting down, we lost some positions, and everything, but perhaps it would be nice to publicize things in the city manager report. If you've ever been interested about your historic property, this is the way to do it, or share information through other means. So it could be there are people that would like to do that, but just don't know how to start. So,
Right. Oh, another question I have is, okay, so when the reconnaissance survey was done, it was done, a number of years ago. And I think it was based on that the building was more than 50 years old. Okay. But now we have buildings that are more than 50 years old that are not on that survey. And as a fact, I know that there were some buildings that were left off that reconnaissance survey on Archer Street, where I live, that were over 50 years old. So it wasn't a perfect survey.
right.
And I'm hoping that at some time maybe it can be updated, because we're missing houses that could be on, that could have some historic value. And, if they're not on there, then we have no way of.
So I can comment on that.
keeping track of it.
Usually if there's a home that's within a survey boundary area that is older than 50 years old, but has been left off the reconnaissance survey, it's because the historian viewed it and found that it did not have the integrity, or did not likely have the significance factor, at least in terms of the architectural significance, or it just looked like it had been modernized, the windows had been replaced, or et cetera. So there are circumstances where I agree. I think maybe there are, some homes that were not included on that list that may still warrant some additional research. But I think the historians, for the most part, do a pretty good job when they don't include a site. It's because they do look at it.
I believe that if somebody has a home and they feel that there was perhaps there was an oversight and their home should be looked at again, that they should propose that, and we would do the best we could looking at it again. I don't think there's anything that prevents us from doing that.
So you're saying that if there was a home that someone felt could be historic, then they could ask the city to
And it would
reevaluate
the
that.
property owner. The property owner maybe would be the one that would bring it forth. And maybe they would be considering, in improving the house, whether to improve it following historic home guidelines or not. They would need more information. They'd come to the planning office, and through discovery, they might find out they could bring it back as a historic property. I can see that could happen. So,
Why would it have to be an owner?
well, usually the owner is the one that has the interest in the properties, and
Neighbors have interest. I have interest in these properties that were left off that reconnaissance survey.
I don't know.
We
when-
don't know.
I'm just saying, most of the time, I think it would be the owner coming in, thinking of it, making an improvement in the house, and
Can I?
that, here's a,
Okay, I've got a comment on that, is somebody's got to pay for the consultant. So usually that would be.
that's what slows them down.
I mean, if the neighbor wants to pay for the consultant, I'm sure that the consultant would take the money. Chris, is there anyone in the city that's in charge of their website that could make it more? I don't know who does the website. Is there like a webmaster for the city?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think the planning office would be in charge of setting up, like a historic list and creating links to each survey. So right now, if you are familiar with the city's public GIS system, you can actually go and look at individual sites, and there's a link to the reconnaissance survey for sites that had one prepared. I don't know that we're linking all of the intensive surveys, but all of that information is public. Someone could, as a hobby, go and create that. I don't think our staff is going to have that on our work log anytime soon. We have
Okay.
a backlog of these things. These are great ideas, and I see the value in them. But I think all of the information is public and is accessible, regardless of not whether some people don't know how to access it.
I do go on it, not frequently, but often enough, and it's like, where's that building that I'm looking for? Usually I find it.
Carol Dawson and I spent a few hours trying to come up with a way of working at it, and she's better at it than I am.
She also has
And-
her hand up.
And it's kind of a challenging situation. I see your hand up, Carol. Which,
Yeah, I mean, just wanted to add to what Lori was saying. I do believe it would be nice if we had just a link that would go to a spreadsheet. And this is something that you and I started, but the city search, the iSearch, it was just too cumbersome. I mean, and if there's any way, I mean, I'm willing to give it another shot if I can get some help with this, because it wasn't intuitively obvious at all. But it would be great if you just had a spreadsheet with all the Mills Act homes on it, and then with links to these intensive surveys. I mean, then everything would be all in one place, rather than having to try to navigate the iSearch, which is not easy to do.
I'd like to give a plug to the Old Town Neighborhood Association. They actually, the leadership of our Old Town, Nancy Soleil, and a couple other people, what's her name? The other lady that helped her, she's on the social.
Phyllis.
Phyllis.
Yeah.
Actually worked hard and created a walking path identifying Mills Act houses and other historic buildings on a walk you can take through Old Town. So that might be something that you could work on through your neighborhood association. If you have an interest, or they have an interest in identifying previously overlooked houses, they could create a walk in New Monterey that identifies some of these properties, and some people may want to follow it further. It's just sometimes the city doesn't do everything for us. Sometimes it comes out of the grassroots, the people that are interested.
Well, we do have a website in New Monterey Neighborhood Association. And there is a drop down tab for historic buildings, but of course, they're not, well, there's some information. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It could be done if someone so desired. So that's a good idea. Keep it more like in the neighborhood as opposed to the city having to do it. And then the city could link to the website that we have. If someone was interested in finding out more, they could say, well, you can look at this website and there's a link to historic buildings. So I know that we have the Parmalee Victorian is on that. And the Chapel House, which is the Carmel Stone House on Pine and Irving. And I think that's pretty much it, but it could be, yeah, that could be a good thing. Can't expect city staff to do everything.
Right, but thank you for bringing it up at this time in the meeting, because I think this is a good time to think about future projects and observations. So thanks for your thoughts. Does anyone else have a contribution to our commission communication or comments?
No.
I think we're okay. Anybody with an informal staff report, Chris?
Yeah, just a couple items. So just to follow up from the October 4th council meeting, they did extend remote teleconference meetings through November 3rd. I'm not sure if that's going to continue through the rest of the year, but that's how it's been for a while, so possibly. And then just some upcoming historical or cultural events. So the 1849 California Constitutional Convention reenactment at City Hall, at Colton Hall rather, will be on Sunday, October 16th at 2. That's this weekend. The Point Sur 14th Annual Halloween Tour will be on October 22nd and 29th.
And
Both
sold out.
it's already sold out.
But if we get keep checking the website. If someone wants a refund, if we can resell it, then
I haven't been since I was a kid, so it would be fun to go
it's
to.
just as scary.
Yeah. And then just a couple of other Halloween events. The Pumpkin Pandemonium at Del Monte Center will occur. The Halloween on Lighthouse. Glow sticks will be given at the Monterey Fire Department stations. The Trunk or Treat and Movie in the Park on Colton Hall Lawn will be actually on October 22nd at 5. The Pumpkin Plunge at the Sports Center is going to be October 29th at 4:30, and that I haven't been to, but
I
it
haven't.
sounds interesting.
Yes. I wrote that one down.
And that's all I have.
Anybody else? It looks like we had a really nice meeting. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and we hope we get more of these great little historic houses. I guess the meeting is adjourned.
Right.